So I made a video previously talking about Hugo enders and showing them off, except I never explained how to actually do them. So this is going to be a video talking about the different enders that you can do on Hugo and how you can do them, how to make them consistent and all that stuff, because one of the things that I see even at a high level is that players go for very inconsistent enders against Hugo. This is important though because this video is not meant to show you what combos to do on Hugo, because how you get these enders will vary depending on situations, whether you get straight hits, whether you start with 1, 2, 3, all of that stuff. So the main goal is to show you how to get into these enders and how to perform them rather than showing you combos to make best use of them. The double shoulder variation is very hard against Hugo, because whether you do heavy punch into medium punch or medium punch into medium punch, there's a chance that that crouching medium punch is going to whiff completely. So because of the inconsistency, the only way that you can really get this to keep them in the corner consistently is to do a side swap heavy punch, dash punch, or shoulder I should say. So basically the concept here is you use a far standing medium kick or a far standing heavy punch, and then you go right into micro step forward heavy punch shoulder, and then the other direction medium punch shoulder, and then you have a couple options. The first option is crouching medium punch up kicks, and it's going to be the most consistent decision that you can make. Now, it's not always going to be 2 hits. You can force it to be 2 hits, though, by delaying very slightly. The next follow-up that you can do is a close standing medium kick into jump fierce. And this is to maintain space and allow you to build meter still. You can also do what Mester does, and you can use close standing medium kick in the jump forward roundhouse as well. You can keep him in the corner, but it requires a slightly different timing, and it also requires you to take a micro step back for your far standing heavy punch. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get enough of a micro step forward for the shoulder to matter because of the amount of bounce that you would get. If you insist on doing this particular ender, the combo that I show is the best way as long as you are starting with 1, 2, 3. Otherwise, as long as you can end with a far standing heavy punch into a micro step forward fierce punch shoulder, you are good to go to get this particular ender. You can also get this off of a far standing medium kick as well. And for that, you don't really need a micro step forward in most cases. It's really important to understand that when you're going for just shoulders in general, a lot of times people will just micro step back before they do their attack so that they cut the time so they can just do shoulder and the dash punch because it's consistent. And it's one of those situations that will come up very often when you're actually doing like random pressure and you get a hit, because getting double shoulder in that situation is a little bit harder. And if you do, there's going to be situations that you can actually force to happen. Is something like this, where you can do forward medium kick into light punch shoulder during Geneijin, and then you end with medium punch shoulder, walk forward, crouch medium punch up kicks. For heavy kick up kicks to work, you have to end with a palm or a standing heavy punch. If you do the standing heavy punch one though, it requires you to walk back a step if you want to get proper follow-ups. If you're trying to get a Zesho ender against Hugo, you have to do just shoulder dash punch. And the reason for this is because the consistency on getting the up kicks into the Kara dash punch is very hard even with a micro step. And it's one of those things that's extremely height specific, so because of the inconsistency, it's not worth going for. So this means that there are really only two options that you have if you want to go into that up kick sender. And that's something like this for a reset. This is something that Mestre does. Or you can do a medium punch shoulder into Dekai. Something like this. Now, when you get that Dekai, depending on when you do your shoulder and how you do your shoulder, depends on what options are available to you. So, if you end up doing the up kicks into shoulder, and you do the early shoulder as opposed to a recovery cancel when you land for the up kicks, you're going to get far medium kick, as opposed to a close standing medium kick, which is the goal. When you're doing this, though, it's important that you actually hold forward before you do the shoulder, even if it's for a micro step. And the reason for that is because even if you do the early one like I just did here, you still need to be able to be fully in the corner so that the Dekai will happen in the opposite direction. Otherwise, you're just going to get close standing heavy punch. Now, like I showed here, if you do tap forward and then immediately do it, like basically hold forward for 2 or 3 frames and then do it, you'll get the ability to do a dash punch afterward. You're also able to do a far standing heavy punch. Now, the hardest version of this actually requires you to do a delayed shoulder. And what I mean by this is you have to do the up kicks and then you have to hold forward for quite a bit of time. So if you were to go back and look at this, I actually hold forward for 27 frames before I finish my shoulder. And then I go for the Dekai. And the reason for this is because you have to be as deep into the corner as possible when your Dekai hits so that you're close enough for the close standing medium kick to hit. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. For more advanced enders, you have Zesho stuff, because it's very hard, specifically against Hugo, to get the up kicks all the time, or to get the double shoulder in some cases. But it's a lot easier to land that dash punch, or the Zesho. So there's a few things that you need to understand first, and how you're going to actually get the Zesho to land. Because as you can see here, if I try to do a shoulder and I do the Zesho from a bad distance, even if it's a medium punch one, then I can't get my shoulder, and it forces me to do a palm in the other direction. So if you are going to get a Zesho from a far standing heavy punch, as an example, you can't do Kara heavy punch dash punch, you can't do medium punch or anything like that. You have to do light. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the shoulder that you would need to do. There are some yuns that try to end with dash punch into standing medium kick, Dekai, Kara dash punch. And the reason why this is inconsistent is because, like in a previous video that I show, the amount of hits that a Zesho actually hits your opponent can affect the amount of height that you get off of a specific thing. So you need to have Hugo landing on your Dekai at a specific height in order to get your Kara dash punch to hit his hurt box. So if you really want to do this, then you have to know how many hits of dash punch you're looking to get. And the requirement is 2. So whether you get this with a slightly delayed heavy punch dash punch or a medium punch dash punch doesn't matter. But it requires a height that will allow you to micro step forward before you do the close standing medium kick, and then immediately canceling into Dekai on the first frame available, and then allowing you to get your Kara dash punch. Otherwise, any other height won't work. If he is bounced too high off of the Dekai, you might have to micro delay your dash punch, in which case it's going to be inconsistent. And it's the same thing if it hits him 3 times. So assuming that you're able to hit him with a palm into a dash punch, this is your goal combo. And the reason for this is because you get an advantage of plus 74. You have a long time that you can build meter, reposition, do whatever it is that you want. You get that knockdown and you get proper Okuzeme. So it's really important to understand what can happen when you're going for dash punch combos. So you can do this particular combo that I showcased earlier off of the shoulder, in which case you can get a light punch dash punch if you do an early shoulder. However, if you do early shoulder, you can put yourself in a position where you're not going to get the close standing medium kick. And this happens off of both medium punch and light punch shoulder. Both of these require extra micro step forward in order to get the proper spacing, otherwise the close standing medium kick won't come out. So you'll either have to know what timing that you're going for, or be able to react to the bounce, in which case far standing medium is not usually the best choice. You can use far standing fierce instead. So like I said before, this requires a micro step forward, a very large one at that, if you want to get that close standing medium kick. Otherwise, you're not going to be close enough. And otherwise, there's a chance that your Dekai might turn into a close standing fierce. So if you're going to be using Dekai, there's one thing that you need to note. And that is that when you do heavy punch Zesho here, it's 2 hits. And the pushback of the Dekai actually makes it so that the dash punch is almost always going to be 2 hits. So if you actually want consistent enders with this, no matter what, and you don't want to risk mistiming the stuff after the palm here, then you can just go for dash punch. Or I should say Dekai. In all of this stuff works in this exact same scenario as well, where you can do the early shoulder in case you want to get the dash punch ender instead, or if you want to put yourself in a position where you can do a close standing medium kick Dekai dash punch as well. Sorry, close standing medium kick Dekai dash punch. And the reason why this works so easily is because the Dekai into the dash punch lets you get an entire step forward for that close standing medium kick, so you get maximum height. So you have the most time possible to get that dash punch to land. And this is why you'll see a lot of Yuns go for Dekai into dash punch as enders against Hugo, is because they're trying to do the close standing medium kick Dekai dash punch because they're not comfortable doing the other choices. And the last thing that I'll show you is the combo that Rishi does sometimes. In which case you can get both hits of that up kicks to connect if you have a slight delay. And in order to get that relatively consistently, you need to do a medium punch Zesho before you do your medium punch shoulder into the corner. Otherwise, it's just, he's too far down, and there's no way to get the correct bounce. And if you want an easy way to do the dash punch, just in general, that's probably the easiest way, is to make sure that you get the early shoulder off of the Dekai into the medium punch shoulder. The last possible choice off of Zesho is pretty simple, where you're just doing a Zesho, micro step forward shoulder, and then a Kara light punch dash punch. This is mostly possible off of the 2-hit Zesho as well, so I use medium punch if I'm looking to do this. It's relatively inconsistent though, and it's why most people will still go for the medium punch shoulder side swap. So the last thing I'm going to show you is the Kara standing medium kick. So the basic concept here is that you're doing a kara standing medium kick, you're walking forward, and then you do a light punch shoulder to get the re-juggle onto the other side, and then you do the Dekai. So if you don't walk forward enough, you won't be able to get the close standing medium kick, just like off of the dash punch here. So it's the same exact situation, where you have to be able to walk forward enough so that the Dekai doesn't push Hugo into the middle of the screen as well. So it's a little bit of a fine line that you need to walk. But if you don't get enough of a walk into the corner, you'll get the far standing medium punch. Or medium kick, I should say. So that's why when you're doing this, I do suggest doing the light punch dash punch one because it's the most consistent, and there's going to be situations where you might not be able to get enough of a walk after the kara standing medium kick. It's completely possible to get consistently, it just might take some time to do and to learn. When using close or kara medium kick, doing a micro step forward medium punch shoulder also works, and it is what I suggest doing if you want to do the close standing medium kick under. It can be a little bit harder, but it's worth going for if you are consistent with it. So if you have Geneijin and you get, a single hit, or a single tick, I should say, this is one of those situations where this is very easy to do, and this is the combo that I do personally against Hugo, and it does work as well against Urian, except you would go for the micro step forward crouch medium punch up kicks instead, and it also works against Shoto's, which you would end with a dash punch instead of a close standing medium kick.